Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. This is the Intangibles. My name is Price Carter. Joining me today, per usual, is my co-host Christian Ainsworth on what has been not the most fun weekend if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fans. We're here to break it all down. Today, we're going to be doing a little annual tradition that we have. It's the blame pie. We're going to be cutting it. It's November. It's pie season. Thanksgiving's on the way in. So we're going to cut up that blame pie and try to figure out who gets the biggest pieces of this loss to the Buffalo Bills, amongst other things. But first, Christian, I need to vicariously live through you. We've discussed previously on the podcast that you are in college still. I should say that you went back to school. You've already taught. You're working on your secondary.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not a failure. All right, I just want to clarify.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Let's lead off the podcast with this, guys.
Yeah. But how was your Halloween? Did you do anything fun?
Dude, so I was all set to. I had the perfect costume picked out. Me and the boys were gonna go out. We have like a annual tradition of everybody going out and doing all this fun stuff. And I was driving, and the rear right tire of my car blew out on I-70. And so I spent
knowing the car that you drive, which is a Mustang GT, those low profile tires. What was that? A $250 tire?
Just about. I think it was 3 after tax and everything.
Nice.
So, and I had to replace both back ones. So,
you get
nice. It was super fun. So I spent, all of my Friday and Saturday mourning the loss of my Mustang and me not being able to drive it. And then, Sunday we got a kick in the nuts. That was the Chiefs game. So it's been a hell of a week for me.
First off, let me tell you how much I miss being in college and Halloween. Boy, it was a great time to be alive. Like, that was one of my favorite holidays back then. Just sitting at the bottom of the dorm rooms, just watching the costumes go out and be like, "Oh yeah, you are a race car driver, aren't you?" My life has obviously changed quite a bit now that I'm an adult. Kids had fun trick or treating, and then the pain just started. Nebraska loses. Dylan Raiola leaves the game injured. Looks like just an ankle sprain. He's standing on the sideline for the whole second half. It looks like, okay, well, it's just not 100%, but they're probably, oh nope. He broke his fibula. He's done for the season. That's fun. And then, there were several games going on that you're kind of like rooting on the results on the Colts end up losing. Broncos pull it out of the fire once again. The Chargers win, and then the Chiefs game. So yeah, it's pretty much been downhill since Halloween, but Halloween was very fun. You don't realize how stressful of a holiday it is for parents.
Well, and I thought about you when I saw the Dylan Raiola news, and I almost sent it to you, but I know that sometimes you need some time to grieve, Price. So I thought better of it. It's like, give him just a little space.
They really would have won that game against USC. Like, if they win the game against USC, they're like in the playoff hunt. Like, because they only have 2 losses, and the hardest game left on their schedule is Penn State without James Franklin. And without their starting quarterback. So they really had a chance right there. And their quarterback, their backup, DJ Lateef, came in and had 8 passing yards from the middle of the third quarter on. They just were totally neutered. They could have won that game. They only lost it by 1 score. Absolutely brutal. And yeah, it is what it is. But, enough about our own rooting interests. We've got our own pain and sorrow to talk about, and that's the Chiefs' loss at the Bills. Let's start right off at the top with the news of the day. Ian Rappaport has Rappaported that Josh Simmons is returning to the team. It sounds like this had been speculated on. I know Nate Taylor did a little bit of reporting with this as well too, that the Josh Simmons dialogue gets over. So good news for Chiefs as the first round offensive tackle Josh Simmons has returned to the team after dealing with a family issue the past weeks. Casey has a bye week this week, serving as a time of reacclimation. He also rejoined social media. So look, we don't really have to do the Josh Simmons thing again. We've all done the Josh Simmons thing about where he was, all that. Good news is he's here now. Okay. That's really all that matters. But I do think looking at the results of this game, looking at where some of the weaknesses were in this game, it was pretty significant to have him back at this time.
Yeah. And I tweeted about it after the game and I said, hey, listen, this is going to devolve into some pretty nasty stuff. If we're not careful as Chiefs fans, we need to be diligent about calling out BS. And I just knew, I was going to open up that app this morning and it was going to be Josh Simmons hate. Like, hey, our first round pick needs to be playing. I don't care what's going on in his personal life, which is all crap. Obviously football or family over football, excuse me. So we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to talk about, some of the degeneracy we saw on Twitter last night from people who, were pissed off at Josh Simmons wasn't going to be back. He's back finally, and we should be able to see him. And I think if he was playing in that game, I think there is something to be said that we would have been in a better situation when Jawaan Taylor went down. But I don't know if that's the factor that would have changed the tide for the game. I think we still might have lost that game without him or having him there. Excuse me.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, I'll say, I haven't seen people really, criticizing Josh Simmons, the person, or hating on him for being gone. I think it's just more of, frustration because it's we just have no idea what to do with it, and I think that's why people are frustrated with it. When you are given no information, it's hard to not get frustrated with that. Because, I mean, at this point, 4 weeks, you're having a really hard time dreaming up some sort of, family situation that matches that. So I think there's just some general frustration. But again, he's back. It's good news. I think there was maybe a little bit of a time there when Jalen Moore was really playing well the first couple of weeks. You say, maybe Josh Simmons comes back and sits a week because of Jalen Moore. I think with the bye week, and I think Jalen Moore's weaknesses are getting a little bit more exposed these last couple of weeks. I think that he will probably come in and start again. So, I think that's huge. And you certainly feel like, looking at how they've played, I did a little deep dive on the stats last week before the Bills game as to what were the Chiefs doing passing the ball and their average depth of target and their time to throw and air yards per attempt with Jalen Moore and with Josh Simmons. Too long didn't read. The time to throw was actually longer with Jalen Moore. The yards per attempt were more with Jalen Moore, but the air yards per attempt were much more with Josh Simmons. So part of that is, it's really noisy, right? Some of that's Rashee Rice returning, some of it's Xavier Worthy, some of it's opponent driven. But I feel like after this game, we can all kind of agree that Josh Simmons unlocks a part of this passing game, especially deep down the field, that we weren't really able to access quite as successfully with Jalen Moore.
Yeah, well, and I think there's something to be said about Jawaan Taylor being as effective as he was in those, after that first week debacle, and then coming in and playing this game. And then losing him as well. We'd love to have Josh Simmons back. And we've, not been exactly thrilled with Jawaan Taylor, as far as, his stint in Kansas City in totality. But he has been a fairly effective player going forward. And I think that, or so far this year. And I think that, losing him was another one of those things that was just kind of another nail in the coffin. I think having him coming back as well, hopefully, I'm not sure what the update is as far as his injury goes, but having him back for the rest of the season is going to be fantastic as well.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start divvying up this blame pie here. And I think talking about the offensive line is probably where this starts. Early PFF grading has the Chiefs tackles, so Wanya Morris, Jalen Moore, and Jawaan Taylor giving up 7 pressures. The last time the Chiefs tackles allowed 7 pressures or more, we all know what game that was, and that was down in New Orleans. And that the Chiefs have not allowed 7 pressures from the tackle position this season until this game. And keep in mind, this is not a pass rush with the Bill. Whenever I was doing the pregame show, I was a little surprised. I looked at the metrics and I said, the perception of the Bills defense is that they are not very good, but most of the underlying metrics, besides the rush defense, which we'll get into, they were actually pretty good. And they turned this Bills pass rush into an elite unit. It looked like, I was watching the game with some friends and they were like, this looks like the Bucs game. This looks like the Eagles Super Bowl. What is going on here? So the Chiefs tackles definitely did not have a good day. Also, Trey Smith allowed 4 pressures, combating a back injury. Props to him for playing through it. And Kingsley Suamataia allowed 1 pressure as well, too. So that's 11 pressures given up in this game. That's huge. And to me, the percentages of the pie here, I'm going 60%. I think 60% of this blame pie is going to the Chiefs offensive line because it made it so they could not function. Now, I do think that there were some things they could have done to alleviate this, but the Bills defense was getting pressure on Mahomes at one of the highest clips that he's seen in the last 5 years. Since 2020 was the last time that he got that much pressure on him. And it showed with his lowest completion percentage since he played at Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean, which is super unfortunate. I don't know if I can go a whole 60% with you, but I understand where you're coming from. This definitely looked like that Bucs game that you brought up earlier, where, Mahomes is rushing or running for his life every single play that we throw the ball. Andy Reid is not giving him a whole lot of help with the running game and doing some play action stuff to kind of keep him honest. But there is a situation. I just have a hard time placing the blame on backups and guys who are injured. You know what I mean? I don't know what the expectation was for the unit going into today or going into Sunday, but there's definitely a part of this where it's like, yeah, what do you expect? The expectation for them is not that they were going to be, elite.
Oh, yeah. And to be clear, it's not blaming the players. It's blaming why they weren't successful in what they wanted to do. Right. Like we're not bagging on Jalen Moore. Like I think Jalen Moore has proven to be the best signing of the offseason, which has been a pretty easy award to win this year, unfortunately. But I have no problem with how Jalen Moore's done. And, Mike Caliendo, when he's got in there, and even Wanya Morris, like, we're not bagging on the players. It's more as like the offensive line play wasn't good enough to win this game. Mahomes was pressured on a season high rate, 52.6% of his dropbacks, despite Buffalo only blitzing on 10.5% of his dropbacks. When under pressure, he completed 3 of 16 passes for 61 yards and threw a pick. From a clean pocket, he went 12 of 18 for 189 yards. Mahomes entered the week as fantasy quarterback number 1, having scored 25 or more points in 5 straight games, dating back to week 4. That just shows you, like, they were getting home with 4. Pretty much every time this Chiefs offense has went really badly and it looks disorganized and rattled, they get pressure with 4, and that's what was happening here.
Well, I just don't know if I can separate that from the game plan, which is the biggest factor for me going into this game. I understand it's the regular season and we're playing the Bills and we don't want to show too much, and they've won the past 4 or 5.
Hold on. I'll let you get to your point.
Okay, right.
I just want to address this because it's something that comes up all the time. Losing this game was a total dick kick for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They really needed to win this game. Not for the 1 seed, not for seeding, to keep pace in the division. I cannot get with the Chiefs are holding stuff back. Do I think that the Chiefs look better in the playoffs? Yes, because I think Andy Reid and his coaching staff are one of the best game-to-game staffs that there is, and they put a lot into those games. But I'm with you. I cannot, and you see it in the comment section or something, the Chiefs do not purposefully lay down in this game so they can sneak up on them. That fits the narrative right now because of the way that these games have played out. When in reality, these two quarterbacks, it's probably close to a coin flip when they play each other, right? Like that was the 10th meeting. I think that all time is 6-4. Josh Allen's won 6, Mahomes won 4, Mahomes won all 4 that matters. Like that's basically a coin flip. So I would just, I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying other people say that, and this is football 300 here. We like to think we're not football 200 or 100. That's another college reference for you guys. 300s are the harder classes.
It's actually 3,000 and 4,000 now. They've updated that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's also like how much it costs per class. So
yeah.
Yeah, but either way, we like to think a little bit higher of ourselves here. So we're not going to do the Chiefs are just playing coy here.
Yeah, obviously. And I think we've been kind of straight with our track record on that. This was like coaching malpractice. I think part of it was, not having the right players on the field and not having the right guys available for the game. But I just don't see a universe where, we look at this game from a coaching perspective and say, wow, Andy Reid really brought it all. Like this was a very vanilla game plan. Not that they were holding anything back, but maybe they thought that they couldn't do as much as they normally can. And part of that's the offensive line depth. Part of that is the situational matchups. But I just look at this team and I see the offensive line being as injured as they were, and us not running the ball and keeping those defensive ends and defensive linemen honest. I mean, Joey Bosa, how many screens did we run? Not that I'm the biggest proponent of running screen plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I mean, we got to keep them honest some way. And if we're not going to run the ball, if we're not going to run screens, you don't get to do that. So that's just not a thing anymore. So to me, this is if we're putting any piece of the blame pie, if we're cutting out a big chunk, it's for the big man, Andy Reid, and, you know, his lack of conviction to run the football.
Yeah, so my next biggest piece, and I do have game planning on mine. My next biggest piece is abandoning the run game, kind of like you talked about it. Would you believe it if I told you that per a carry, Kareem Hunt had more EPA per rush than James Cook did in this game?
Yes.
Kareem Hunt finished, well, I guess Monday Night Football is still pending, finished 13th on the week in EPA per rush, despite only getting 11 carries. And that's Kareem Hunt, right? Like, we know that this game probably looks a little bit different with Isaiah Pacheco, just like what their skill sets complement each other. But the Chiefs basically, I talked about this at the halftime show. They made it hard on themselves by the way that this went. Obviously, the Bills go down there and score, and then they go 3 and out. They were chasing points the entire game. That leaves the Bills in their situation where they can run past, and they had the Chiefs linebackers thinking all the time. But the Chiefs' inability to stick to the run or take advantage of that, it was really frustrating. And it almost kind of felt like what's happened the last couple of weeks for the Chiefs when they were facing the Ravens, when they were facing the Lions, where those teams, they want to run the ball, but they can't do it because they're game script dependent. And the Chiefs were game scripted out of running the ball. And it felt like when they got down 8, when they finally got back there, I was like, okay, let's start running the ball. And then there was a drive where, and this is how running the ball goes. Sometimes, like, we like to think like, oh, they're averaging 4 yards a carry. It goes 4, 4, 4, 6, 4. When in reality, it can go 1, -1, 9, right? Like, it's not symmetrical like that. And it's very easy to lose track of that. But the Chiefs basically forced themselves into being a one-dimensional offense in this game because of their inability to stay dedicated to the run and to run the ball effectively. And, you know, I think I saw a comment in here about, like, you don't deserve to win if you can't run the ball in from the 1 yard line. That was a unique situation there. They only have 1 timeout. It would have been really not, and Tony Romo, for all of his shortcomings, did a nice job there where he's like, that was huge for them to stop Kareem Hunt on the first one because they had to burn their timeout. And then you're in a situation where, like, you don't want to get 0 points, right? Like, you want to get 7, but you can't get 0. So they had to be careful with the timeouts there. It's also frustrating that Hollywood Brown couldn't extend the ball over the goal line there. Like, he's falling backwards. You think he could have just extended it over there. Either way, like, the Chiefs have been really, really good in short yardage situation. That's a situation that maybe, what were your thoughts on that? Do you think that the Chiefs should have went for it on 4th down there?
Well, I think that you almost have to, especially with the type of game that you're playing. You're playing against the Bills.
Were you saying that at halftime? Like, were you saying that at halftime? Or you, okay, I just want to make sure that we're not hindsighting this.
Yes, yeah. My immediate thought was, going into this game, this is the most aggressive Chiefs team we've seen on 4th downs. We're in a position where we're playing the hardest opponent on our schedule thus far, and we're in a situation where we're down points. And we're going into half. I understand we get the ball back, but you score the touchdown there. I think that kind of changes the trajectory of the second half. And to me, it was also kind of a throwback to the old Andy Reid in those types of situations where it's like, let's be conservative. Let's not make any mistakes. And then our roster can elevate us. With who was injured at that point in time, with who wasn't on the field, with how we were playing, that is not a roster that could elevate and clear that hill. I was very, very apprehensive. I was very, very concerned when we didn't go for that. But I just want to hit something else really quick. So you talked about the run game a little bit there and the ineffectiveness of it. To me, I think that the Chiefs were great at running the football last night when they did. At some point during the third quarter, Kareem Hunt had 7 carries for 35 yards and was averaging 5 yards per carry. Now, obviously, like you said, it's not like we hand the ball off, we get 5 yards. We hand the ball off, we get 5 yards. It's we get 3, we get 7. We get 2, we get 9. Like, that's, about how it was. But with that stat in mind, midway through the third, Andy Reid, his last 10 play calls, when I did the analysis here, 9 passes, 1 run. And we talk about adding running back like Breece Hall. We talk about adding Devon Achane to this offense. I'm not sure if those guys can fix that problem, which is one of coaching and not staying committed. And you mentioned it too, being committed and allowing those, allowing Kareem Hunt to get going a little bit, or, putting a little bit more trust in Bashard Smith instead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. that might have added something to the game that, you know, the defense has to account for and not being so one-dimensional on offense.
Yeah, and let's be clear, the Chiefs don't need to turn into a team that's just running the ball all the time. The most simple analysis of this game is everything looked easy for Josh Allen last night. Chiefs are a good defense, and he has the ability, obviously, as a runner himself, and with James Cook, he had 3 incomplete passes in this game. Everything looked easy for him. The Bills have made life easier for Josh Allen regularly with what they have done, minus the wide receiver room. And I think that showed here too, right? Like basically nobody did anything in the receiving game outside of Kincaid and Shakir. You had a little dabble of Knox there. You had a little dabble of a couple other like role players, but basically it was James Cook on the ground, Khalil Shakir, and Dalton Kincaid. That's it. And life was still very easy for Josh Allen. It's just would be nice for there to be an easy button for Patrick Mahomes, and being able to take advantage of that would be huge for the Chiefs offense. And whether you're talking about going and getting a true needle mover like a Breece Hall or something like that, or if you're just talking about maybe just an incremental improvement in that room, I do think that they have to look at that.
Oh, yeah. And now that Jalen Phillips has been dealt, I don't know if there's a guy on defense you can just go out and get that will raise the floor of that defensive line, which was also an issue for that game. And to me, there's 2 guys you got left.
The Chiefs pass rush has been an issue, and it will continue to be an issue. But I will say this. I don't think that this game is the canary in the coal mine that everyone does for the pass rush. I think this game, this game is as much about rush lane integrity. They did a pretty good job of containing Josh Allen in the run game. They use that mush rush where we're as much holding run lanes as we are getting pass rush from our spies. They kind of use
what do you make of Chris Jones' performance then? Because I look back on this game, and after rewatching it twice, I think that he did an okay job, but not the amount of money that we're paying him job to be that.
Well, so like here's the thing. Like Chris Jones is definitely not my expectations. My point isn't necessarily that the Chiefs just should be totally content with their pass rush. I just think like looking at the results of this game, as far as pressures and sacks goes, it might not be the best game to judge like what they have overall. I do think that they still need to make a move. I think, like a Calais Campbell would make a lot of sense. I think Arden Key from the Titans could make some sense. He's kind of another name he's very Charles Omenihu-esque in what he does. Speaking of people who like don't show up to work, Josh Simmons and Charles Omenihu apparently. But yeah,
he's got time for that.
Yeah. So the pass rush obviously is an issue that does need to get better. And it just feels like they just need one more horse, right? Like it would be like what Melvin Ingram was for the Chiefs in 2022. That's what they need. Where it's just one more guy who can take advantage of his matchup.
Terrell Suggs.
And those one-on-one situations. And again, you brought up Jalen Phillips. There's some potential for some other guys to be moved. The trade deadline I think it's at 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So tune in to Tuesday with Briscoe and Sterling to kind of look at that and talk about it as it's happening in real time. Real quick, like last little piece of the blame pie for me. We talked about the game plan. Where's the mesh? Where's the RPOs? Like the Chiefs kill the Bills in RPOs. Where was the empty formations? Where they're, spreading them out and taking advantage of the linebackers in space. The screen game with Rashard Smith disappeared. It just felt like there was a lot of things that have been a part of the Chiefs game plan here recently that really weren't. And it felt like a ton of the routes were all vertical, just like super vertical routes, which just hasn't been the way that the Chiefs have won historically. I mean, how often did it feel like Rashee Rice was getting the ball in his hands with room to run? And I'm not talking about design screens for him. I'm talking about, concepts. And then also like, it's 4th down. You're going for it. Rashee Rice is like there was like 3 people running to the spot that Rashee Rice was running to on that hook. Like they've got to start. I think it's a valid question to ask: is the offense becoming too Rashee Rice centric? Because I think this offense is at its best when it flows through everyone. Tyquan Thornton has basically been like banished at this point. I think you saw some of the things Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy can do. Travis Kelce still comes up. I think Rashee Rice should be looked at much more as like a piece to this offense as necessarily the wide receiver one that we want to get all the stats to.
Well, yeah, and that's a really good point. And, you talk about the state of the offense and what Rashee Rice has done to it. I think it has elevated it, but it does feel more gimmicky now than it ever has been. Andy Reid's offense has always been very yak based, very much a place that wide receivers who, can get the ball in their hands and be effective in that sort of yak type situations. They gives them a lot of reps there. But just once, I'd like to see this team turn into, like a Vikings offense, or even at times a Patriots offense, where we have situations where we're making easy reads for Patrick Mahomes. We're getting guys down the field in concepts that are not just, like four verts or tight end attack, where we've got 3 tight ends on the field and they all run and go. Any type of situation where we can kind of levy or alleviate some of the pressure that's on Patrick Mahomes, I think is a good situation to be in. And I think one we'll see moving forward as well. My last little piece of the blame pie I have is just the personnel. I think that you can look across the board here and say, it's all hindsight. Obviously, when we looked at the Christian Fulton signing, it was like, hey, look, there's a guy who gets injured a lot, but has a lot of talent and could be effective in the defense. I think you look at the, Jalen Moore signing, and he's been, adequate to above average, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we needed him to be. And then you look at other guys around the team, even the draft class, where it's like Josh Simmons is not playing, which, he is now. So let's not hang up on it too much, but he's not playing. Omar Norman Lott is injured. Noel Williams got picked on a little bit last night. You have guys like Jeffrey Bossa, who's not seeing the field, who you would think, is supposed to be this tight end coverage guy who can kind of help out in the run and be athletic on the outside. He didn't see a whole lot of playing time. And then Brashard Smith is the untrustworthy running back who can't get snaps over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who got signed 3 days ago. It just seems to me like this was, and we've talked about this before, this Chiefs team has to be dependent on these young guys and let these young guys play. It's tough when the young guys aren't playing well. And that's just going to be a part of the growing pains.
Yeah. And, I think like some of these things kind of parlay into my last little bit. We talked a little bit about like the Chiefs linebackers in coverage, right? Like they had the scope on them as far as that goes, where they are exploiting Drew Tranquill, they're exploiting Nick Bolton, and that's what they're going to do. I saw this. The Chiefs are 31st in EPA per a drop back from under center on defense. They are 4th out of the pistol and shotgun. That is staggering difference, where it is very clear that they want to get the Chiefs and base personnel, where you're getting Bolton and Chanel on the field, and you're getting them mostly in 2 safety looks and taking advantage of them and Shamari Connor. And Shamari Connor wasn't really felt in this game. I thought they did a pretty good job of having Trent McDuffie shadow. Khalil Shakir. Yeah. Here, but man, it's a big deal. And yes, you're right. I think the bye week is usually a nice little bump for this team. I think it is time to explore Bossa in some of those situations, but keep in mind, he as a safety convert out of Oregon, this is not a game that you necessarily are expecting him to get in there, where you got Jackson Hawes and James Cook in the run game, because that, again, it was game script dependent as much as anything else, as far as the Chiefs got game plan out of what they were going to do on defense and on offense, because they had the Chiefs linebackers spinning all day thinking run or thinking pass. Real quick, let's talk about our friends over at Underdog. Tonight is a doozy of a Monday Night Football game, and by doozy, I mean crap. It is not a very good Monday Night Football game. I am not necessarily looking forward to watching Dak Prescott say, yeah, here we go, like 50 times against Jacoby Brissett. But I'll watch it because it's a football game, and I'm going to be playing on Underdog because that makes every game just a little bit more fun. Are you ready to get off the bench and get into the game? Then head over to Underdog to get in on the action. Playing on Underdog, it's easy. Just make a pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, and more. Today, here are the things that I like. I like a little bit higher on Marvin Harrison Jr. I like an anytime score or a higher on Javonte Williams rushing. And I also like higher on Jake Ferguson, the tight end. He has been a machine in the passing game. I like all of those higher. I think it's going to be a little bit of a score fest because the Cardinals offense actually looked a little bit better with Jacoby Brissett, which is pretty sad to say, but true. Download the app today and sign up with a promo code Arrowhead Addict to score $100 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code Arrowhead Addict, all one word. And Underdog, you make picks, win money. Must be 18 years or older, 19 in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 in Colorado for some games, 21 in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Chicago, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.nbcgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and bring on friend of the show, a great person to follow, whether you're on Twitter or your socials. It's Brady Penn. Brady, good to talk to you.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to come on and talk a little bit of ball, and nothing better to do after Sunday and a big slate of games, right?
Yes, and I figure we just lead right off with Georgia Tech losing to NC State. They really choked that away. For those of you that don't know, Brady, you work for Georgia Tech Athletics, correct?
I work in football videos, so pretty much you watch all 22 as a coach of a Georgia Tech game. You're gonna see my film, and you're gonna see footage from a game where I was behind the camera, and I was behind the camera in Raleigh on Saturday night, and it was not a good one for the Yellow Jackets. It was like a hot knife through butter for NC State's offense, but Haynes King at least continued to be Haynes King. That was the silver lining for the Jackets, for those of you that are college football fans.
Brady is a fan of like some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, like Tom Brady and Haynes King,
exactly.
For sure. So
don't forget Drake May. Don't forget Drake May.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So part of the reason why, and you might be wondering, like, why is this Patriots guy coming on here talking on the show? First off, like, Brady, you do quite a bit. You were down covering the Super Bowl. I see you got the hat on. You were down in Super Bowl LIX there in New Orleans covering the Chiefs, and you also covered the Braves at a beat reporter level, which is fun and very cool. And honestly, man, I'm a big proponent of putting people on the show who I think do a good job. And I think you do a good job of based, honest, authentic analysis. And that's coming from someone who, has seen a lot of things that Chiefs fans have seen as far as a dynastic team, a dynastic quarterback, and what that's like. And I think it's kind of interesting to talk to you a little bit too, because of what the Patriots are doing right now. I feel like we, as post Brady, have not gotten to see much of the Patriots the last couple of years, mostly because we haven't wanted to. We got a little,
neither.
Yeah, we got a little bit of exposure to the Patriots on that Sunday night game, and even that was quite a bit ago. The Patriots obviously win that game with Drake May, but real quick, like right now the Patriots are like the number 2 seed. They're still leading the division over the Bills. Talk a little bit about where the Patriots are right now as a team, and like how real is this for the Patriots? How real contenders are they for a Super Bowl?
Yeah, definitely. So what I've been saying, and even after yesterday, it wasn't their cleanest game, is I don't think they're there quite yet when you talk about in terms of a real contender in the AFC. But what I do think is their season's going to come down to 3 games. Where they're playing and when they're playing in January is going to come down to 3 games. At Tampa, coming up here, at home against Buffalo down the stretch in December, and at Baltimore. Those are going to be the 3 games that really determine things for the Patriots. You win 2 of those 3, you're probably winning the East, especially, obviously, one of those is the Buffalo game. You can't really have a slip up against the Jets or a Dolphins, and that's something that we do see as a pitfall for these young teams, right? With a young quarterback, sometimes you play down to your opponent. The Falcons almost were able to snatch that game just yesterday against the Patriots. So I am still at a wait and see. But as far as, mid-season reports, it's an A+. I mean, Mike Vrabel has done an amazing job, especially getting them off the schneid at 1-2 after a really ugly game against the Steelers where they turned the ball over 5 times. May turned it over twice, 3 fumbles from the running backs, and the week 1 against the Raiders looked really, really poor. Those are 2 bad losses at home that the team has rebounded from, and part of how they've done it is being road warriors. I mean, they're 4-0 on the road, including being the first team to win in the regular season in Buffalo since 2023. So I think they're doing a lot of really good things, and I think that Drake May has been as good as you could hope for. I mean, there are people that have already started calling him the best quarterback of this class, whether you choose him or Jaden, which super unfortunate injury for him. Whether you choose one of those 2, I think it's fair either way with the way that Drake May has played, and it's really exciting. Nobody can run the ball against this team. They've got a few holes, but I think that it's very encouraging, and they've put themselves in a position to play meaningful December games that are going to go a long way in terms of determining the seeding in this conference?
Well, I think, when you start looking at it, the coach, the quarterback, you start ticking off the things that you want to see a franchise be a true Super Bowl contender. It starts with the quarterback, obviously. And Drake May is, I think what's probably the most significant about Drake May is you alluded to Jane Daniels a little bit. Obviously, Daniels bust onto the scene last year. And even in the games that he's been healthy, which haven't been a whole lot this year, he's not looked quite like the same guy. And I think, you will hear coaches say sophomore years for quarterbacks is the most important year. That's where teams really spend an offseason looking at you and breaking down your weaknesses. How do you respond to those sort of things? And Drake May has answered the call with a supporting cast that is subpar to say the best. I do think that McDaniels is kind of showing that he's still a really good offensive coordinator. He's just not a good head coach. But you start ticking off like, all pro level quarterback. Got it. A great head coach. Got it. Like from the Chiefs who used to play the Titans quite often. The Titans always give the Chiefs issues defensively. They play the Chiefs as close as anybody. And them getting Mike Vrabel was just a massive get for them. And it felt like a marriage, like almost a prearranged marriage there with how it went down with the Titans. They have an all-pro level corner in Christian Gonzalez, and they think they have their future left tackle too. Like you start checking off some of those boxes there, and keep in mind you're on that rookie contract quarterbacks window. Like they've got a move in there somewhere for an all-star wide receiver or an all-world pass rusher that can really put this over the top. This is the part that I think gets tricky. We were just alluding to the Commanders, also allude to the Texans. This next offseason, I think for the Patriots is going to be huge because how they allocate that money is going to be huge. The Texans allocate it to, they load up on the defense and they basically don't put much around CJ Stroud. And then they choose to trade Laramie Tunsil. You also see like what the Commanders do. Like somehow the Commanders are where they are and their spending spree consists of like Von Miller, Deebo Samuel, Bobby Wagner. Like I do think how they enter this next phase will be really huge. But I look at this and I think, while they are playing like the 32nd overall schedule, according to DVOA, they're, like you said, they're preventing the slip ups. And I think it is very real what the Patriots are doing. And I have a feeling that we're going to see many more, or I guess we haven't seen one yet, but many Drake May, Patrick Mahomes matchups coming in the future.
Yeah, I really am hoping that we do get that matchup. I'm going to be like transparent as a Patriots guy. If you tell me that the Pats are traveling to Arrowhead, I feel even more this way. But even if the Chiefs come to Foxborough in January, it's going to be a tough game to win. It's going to be really tough with a team that's cemented, that's won the AFC 3 straight years, has the best quarterback in the league, all this stuff. But I would love to see it because kind of like what you're saying, Price, the Patriots have the ingredients that we've seen that you need to knock down and upset the Chiefs with the coach, with the quarterback. I think that they've got a lot of those ingredients. And you mentioned the offseason. I spent a lot of the early part of the season saying, in the offseason, I hope we trade for a wide receiver. I hope we trade for A.J. Brown. And while that would still be great, and there are ties there, and we'll see what happens with all the A.J. Brown drama and what ends up becoming a Philly season. But I'm starting to think with the Patriots and the way that this team is formed, with Kayshon Boutte kind of emerging, do you make a trade? Do you make a move in the offseason for a defensive guy? Do you look at Jeffrey Simmons, who played with Mike Vrabel? Do you look at Max Crosby, who might want out of there in Vegas? I know those are big swings. It could be something smaller. It could be a collective of guys like last offseason with Carlton Davis and Robert Spillane and those type of moves. But it is really interesting, and I don't want to spend too much time looking forward to the offseason when the Patriots are sitting at 7-2 and looking the best they have since 2018, 2019. But it's definitely exciting to look forward to. And you see a team like the Chiefs, like the old Patriots, that dominates the league with a really, really good quarterback, and it just makes you excited for the future. I'm not saying Drake May is going to go back to back and go to 3 straight Super Bowls. I don't know. Time will tell what's going to happen there in terms of winning with the Patriots, but it's really exciting and something to build up to for sure.
Let's talk a little MVP. Christian, you want to talk about like MVP and how
yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you, Brady, for coming on. At Brady Penn 21 on Twitter. If you guys are not already following him, you're a fantastic follow. I just have a question. So last night you said on Twitter, Chiefs may have just lost the 1 seed and the MVP. Are you saying that just because you're like all the other Patriots fans in my mentions, or is this an objective take?
No, this is objective because I mean Pat has been my MVP for the last few weeks, really, especially since you got Rashee Rice back. He's looked phenomenal in those two games leading up to yesterday. Had him preseason #1 in my quarterback rankings. Like I've got all the respect for Patrick Mahomes in the world. And I know that a lot of my fellow Patriots and Brady fans don't feel the exact same way that I do. But I think Patrick Mahomes is really, really good. I put a preseason bet on him to win the MVP when the odds were looking pretty tasty there, and I still think there's a chance that it happens. But when you look at the formula of winning an MVP and you look at what it's taken, especially over the last decade, 12 years, you need to be a top two seed. That's the number one thing that the Chiefs have put themselves behind the eight ball with is you're sitting there 5-4 right now. You've got the Colts who have the upper hand. They'll get a head-to-head matchup there. You got the Bills who really have the upper hand in terms of chasing the one seed. And the division is far from a guarantee for Kansas City. Do I think that they're going to come back and win the AFC West? Yes, I do. I don't believe in Bo Nix and this Broncos offense. The Chargers are kind of on and off and not very healthy. I still think this is the Chiefs division, but you've got to go win those division games. Baltimore is super hot. Who knows how hot they're going to finish the season? They go on a 9-2, 10-1 run. It gets a little bit closer, even though the Chiefs have the head-to-head. So there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to this MVP, but I think the seeding is the number one. And then you look at who are the other candidates going to be. Obviously, Josh Allen's going to be right in the thick of it. The Bills are contending for a one seed. He's the reigning MVP. That's going to be a guy that's right there at the top. He jumped to the favorite in odds on most books after yesterday's game. You've got Drake May, who's sitting second in odds right now. And if they are able to topple the Bills and win the East and get a top two seed, it's hard to say that he wouldn't get a real good look there. Matthew Stafford, LA Rams are humming, leading the league in touchdown passes. It feels like the Chiefs were slow to get going, and then they started to get really, really hot these past few weeks. Had a setback yesterday as they head into the bye. I don't think they're cooked. I don't think Mahomes' season is cooked or anything like that. I just think from a narrative standpoint and from what you need to do to win the award, Patrick is a little bit behind the field now after yesterday and the performance that him and the offense had. But it'll be really interesting, and I think we all know that that's not the kind of stuff that the Chiefs are worried about anyways. They're worried about getting into the postseason hot, figuring out their rhythm, and taking it to the rest of the AFC the way they have the last 3 years.
So was that the way the Patriots were as well? I mean, I'm assuming you were a fan throughout the dynastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I used to kind of get into the MVP talks, especially early on. So I probably started watching 2010 was my first year. Brady won the MVP that year. I was 9 years old, I believe, when that season was happening. So that was when I really got into it. But I didn't really see a lot of Brady MVP recognition growing up as a fan up until 2017. So I would get into the convos, I get kind of annoyed. I'd be like, oh, Brady's better than Cam Newton. He's better than Peyton, like all this and that. I was in Instagram comment sections at age 13, fighting for my life, defending Tom Brady. But
I think we've all been there. We've all been there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was definitely more of a playoff thing for them too. And it's like Edelman always says it on his, podcast and everything, is that they always said that real football games, the real season didn't start until November. And I feel like the Chiefs approach it in a really similar way. And you had we're on to Cincinnati year in 2014. You had the Chiefs going 11-6 in 2023. All these years where people weren't thinking about the quarterback for MVP. People weren't worried. Oh, these guys have fallen off. We've seen that multiple times for both of these dynasties. So I think the Chiefs, they've got bigger fish to fry. Absolutely.
Well, I'm happy to hear you say that, especially from the doomsday perspective that we've gotten so much of over the past 12 hours. But so there are two other guys here that I think we need to give a little bit of due to, and Josh Allen, one of them, with his statement win last night. Drake May coming up on this next game against Tampa Bay. If he wins this game, do you think he's in the driver's seat for the MVP? Because I think there's a real conversation that needs to be had. If he plays as well as he has in the past 3 or 4 games against Tampa Bay, who is a very, very good NFC team, there's no reason why Drake May can't win MVP, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because you look, I can't remember who Buffalo has in their coming up game, but 2 games from now, Buffalo takes on Tampa Bay right after New England takes them on. So it'll kind of be, if those are still the top 2 guys in odds, Allen and May, and you still got to wait for the other head-to-head matchup between them, you might start using that as a measuring stick if you're somebody that's, making a case one way or the other. Which guy played better against Tampa, especially if they're both like shootout type games and Baker's doing his thing too. If Drake May or Josh Allen, outduels Baker Mayfield and goes and beats a really scrappy but injured Bucks team right now, I think definitely that could put either one of them in the driver's seat. But Drake May is the one who gets the first crack, and if he goes and does it on the road, moves them to 5-0 on the road, the noise is definitely only going to get louder. I don't know if the odds would quite reflect it. It seems like Josh Allen is given a lot of, I guess I'd say, breathing room by the odds makers right now, kind of being the incumbent and being the reigning winner. And obviously, I know a lot of betting odds very projection based, and they're projecting based off the schedule the Bills have that they're going to have a really good time the rest of the regular season. But to answer your question, I definitely think if Drake goes in and plays well in Tampa Bay, that he's probably the number one candidate.
So you do a really good job of putting out this chart that you put out on your Twitter. Great follow on Twitter, by the way. Kind of like breaking down all the stats and where the MVP sit at and stuff. What do you think has to happen here for Mahomes to crawl back into the race? Because the way I see it, usually the MVP comes down to that 1 or 2 seed player, and you've got to be basically the statistic best player. I think this year, I've been very prompt to point out, like, this year we're including rushing yards, total touchdowns, because Mahomes has been running the ball at a higher rate. He's not a tush push merchant like some of the quarterbacks out there. When the Chiefs get down in the red zone, Rashee Rice is taking wildcat formation carries rather than pushing them over the goal line 2 or 3 times. But what do you think it takes for Mahomes to get back in the race? Do you think he still stands a chance?
Yeah, he definitely still stands a chance. I mean, he's third in odds, but I think one benefit that Mahomes has that not every other quarterback does is every week for the Chiefs is a national game. Everybody all over the country is watching the Chiefs, and the writers, every sports personality is paying a little bit closer attention to Kansas City on a week-to-week basis. Week 1 we're in Brazil, we're playing the Chargers. Week 2 we're back with a Super Bowl rematch at home. The Lions game, Sunday Night Football, like. It's a lot of opportunities in front of really wide-ranging audiences to make a statement, and he's going to have to put together some more, 4 touchdown games, 300-yard games, like dominant offensive performances. And I thought that last Monday night he did a really good job of not letting that bad first half by the offense sink his case or anything. Like, he came back and played an amazing second half. He was moving defenders all over the place with his eyes. He was extending the play, and we didn't quite see that yesterday, but we know that most of the time he's going to do that. And there's no reason for me to believe, especially if they come off the bye. Kansas City's so good off the bye with Andy Reid, come off against a really, really good Denver defense. I believe 3rd in EPA, 4th in DVOA defensively. Saw them win a defensive slugfest with Houston. If he comes out, throws for 3 touchdowns against these guys and gets a little bit closer in that division race, gets back within a game, he's right back there. And there are going to be multiple opportunities like this down the stretch for him. Chargers again, Broncos, still both games to play there. There are going to be opportunities for him to climb back in. He's far from out of it. It's just going to be tough seating wise, especially.
So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show was to talk a little bit about big picture about these 2 dynasties. I don't really think there's a whole lot of debating as far as the Patriots and their dynasty. I think it's definitively number 1. I as a Chiefs fan, I really try to be grounded about this stuff. There's a lot of people who already want to put Mahomes above Brady or at that level or what the Chiefs have done. I do think one thing that's interesting comparing the 2 dynasties is, the Patriots, they go that 10 years without winning a Super Bowl. Obviously, right now the Chiefs are on a stretch here of going to 5 to 6 and being in 7 straight AFC Championship games. I wonder, in your opinion, I just think it's going to be really hard for the Chiefs to ever get to that 6 rings territory, just because, no one's ever done that. But how do you view, if the Chiefs are able to reel off another 2 or 3 Super Bowl appearances here in a row, where if they do something like go to 7 of 8 or 8 of 9 or something like that, where does that put that team, in your opinion, compared to where the Patriots, it was kind of, as some people have pointed out, 2 dynasties in one?
Yeah, definitely. That was number one thing I was going to say is what makes the Patriots so unique is it was a different core of guys twice. You mentioned the 10-year dry spell there in the middle. It was 2 separate dynasties. And even in the years that they weren't winning in those 10 years, they were still, going to Super Bowls. They were still a top 2 seed pretty much every year. So it was pretty much 20 years of dominance with Brady Belichick, and everybody else. And that's what I think is going to be hard to match. I don't see why, like the Chiefs, who knows how many they're going to end up with. They could end up with 5 more. They could end up with no more. Hopefully, I don't think so, but we will see. I think what's made it so interesting is the Chiefs have made it an easier position for themselves early on. Like Brady was a little bit older at this point than Mahomes is right now, sitting with the same amount of rings, 3 rings, and then he rattles them off in his late 30s, in his 40s, and kind of pulls away from the rest of the field. But Mahomes just turned 30 years old, and he could win his 4th ring this year. So I know Chiefs fans always use, rightfully so to an extent, the career start when it comes to the pace between Brady those first 7 years and Mahomes the first 7 years. And I think you can get into the debates of different eras and this and that. But the reality is Mahomes has the better start to the career. They've got the faster, most explosive start to the dynasty than the Patriots do. But can they do it on the back end? You've got Chris Jones now getting a little bit older. Travis Kelce, obviously, we don't know. This could be his last season. I know people have said it for like 2 years in a row. Who knows with that guy? But Mahomes is in his 30s. You can't take it for granted in the NFL. And do I think they're going to continue to win? Yes, but it's just so tough that I'm really excited to see how it unfolds and how they evolve over the next 5 years, because we've already seen evolution from this team when it went from the gunslinging, explosive 20+ yard downfield aerial attack with a weaker defense to very good at, making teams play to their style and winning these cutthroat games, winning these games that people in the media are like, oh, it isn't sexy. Like, why aren't they winning 30-13 anymore every week? And they've done a lot to change what they do. And if they can do that again, I don't see why they can't be successful still with 15 under center. But my answer, it's kind of a lame one, but it's like we just have to wait and see over the next few years like what this team does, because it changes so fast in the NFL. Windows open, they close so quickly, and sometimes they can stay open for a long time. So it's really unpredictable. But if you got 15, you got a good chance.
Yeah, and I think obviously the career pace and stuff like that with Brady and Mahomes, it's just going to be unmatched because of how long Brady did what he did. And there's some serious questions that Mahomes will have to answer about his play if he wants to ever kind of get into the late 30s, early 40s, because right now he still plays the game mostly like he used to.
Right.
We're insane arm angles, we're break and contain, we're doing things off schedule. A lot of what he still does relies on arm talent, although I do think he has become probably one of the best quarterback processors in the game, besides maybe Stafford and Allen as well. Agree. And, that goes underrated about his game, about what he's doing pre-snap. And I think that's part of the reason why some of the advanced metrics and stuff don't love him as much anymore, because they struggle to contain those things. I think one of the mistakes we've made, and we were talking a little bit the other day about how we've gotten in this place where honorable quarterback play or good quarterback play is deep shots, close, tight window throws. That's how people view elite.
Bro, it's highlight culture. It's highlight culture.
We've gotten to this place now where people almost view hitting an open receiver as a bad thing. Where it's like Mahomes, his primary read is open 70% of the time, and he makes it. So, oh, you mean throwing to the open guy? Like, that sounds kind of smart to me. Like,
can I piggyback off you here?
Yeah.
Real quick with it. I don't want to walk over you. I just don't want to lose the thought. It's funny seeing like the evolution of the Chiefs dynasty and seeing how I feel like you guys as Chiefs fans and the whole Chiefs kingdom starts to understand what it was like to be a Patriots fan more and more each year, because it's the refs. The refs are cheating for them. Oh, Mahomes is carried by the defense. He's carried by the O-line. He's carried by the weapons. He's just throwing checkdowns. Like, remember, check down Tom was like the biggest thing for the longest time, because like you're saying Mahomes does, Brady knew what the defense was coming with. He was making the quick open read. He was getting it to his guys in space quickly. And people use that like it was a bad thing. And all of these, like, time is a flat circle. All of these narratives that were thrown out there about the Patriots, for better or worse, are now being used against the Kansas City Chiefs and what they do. And it's pretty jarring, honestly, like seeing both. Like, just it's insane to see kind of, history repeating itself a little bit.
And to your point, like, these teams, the Chiefs and the Patriots, will both do whatever they have to do to win. And that is something that is not true of every quarterback. Some quarterbacks are not going to give up their completion percentage or their touchdown interception ratio like Rodgers.
Rodgers.
Yeah, like he Pat will dump the ball off to running back in the flat 20 times if it means that they can win the game, and he will send the ball over the top, or he will attack the boundaries. They will chameleon their way to do whatever they want to do to win the game, and that's something that like I think makes the Brady and Mahomes comparison so unique, because I think that they're one of the few guys that will truly do that on a regular basis. And I think that that's part of what makes this fun and part of what makes it fun to talk about. And I think we got to talk about one more thing before you get out here though. Okay. This one bothers me. And I think it's like no offense to those who participate in such activities, but it's like a classic, like, millennials in popping activity where we're just like, well, nobody was ever as good as Rob Gronkowski. He's tight end number one. He's the greatest tight end of all time, and it's not close. The problem that we get into with the Chiefs fans and the Patriots fans is we're going to judge Tom Brady by the full arc of his career, production, rings, all those type of things. But then we're going to shift the narrative with Rob Gronkowski. We're going to go peak. At peak, nobody could ever do what Gronk was done. Well, dude, I'm getting tired of watching Rob Gronkowski push insurance every commercial break, and then I watch Travis Kelce have 100 yards on Monday Night Football, and they're the same freaking age. So let's talk about it, all right? Why is Travis Kelce not, or is he the greatest tight end of all time? Or let's not even do that, because I think Tony Gonzalez has a seat at the table here, certainly leading almost every metric. But not Brady versus Gronk. Gronk versus Kelce. Where do you sit on the tight end debate?
Hey, I only caught Tony G in the Atlanta years here in the city, but it was great. So Tony G, you're right, absolutely seat at the table. But I hate that it's not close, because it definitely is. And you'd be surprised to hear that I know some of my Brady buddies that are pro, Kelce GOAT, and they think Kelce is. They say, man, I wish Travis Kelce could have played with Tom Brady. That would have been like a great combination. Kelce fits exactly what, Brady loved to do with his pass catchers. He was so smart, he is so smart. He's so like instinctive when it comes to route running and nuance and understanding of space and all these things. But it's style of play for both these guys. When you make the case for Travis Kelce, yeah, he's got the longevity. He absolutely. I think you talk about the whole arc of the career. It's Travis Kelce, like greatest career by a tight end of all time, absolutely. And he's, again, so smart. We could go on and on about all the things that he is. But Travis Kelce, I'm not as big of a proponent of this, narrative as a lot of Patriots fans are, but he is more of a flex guy, more of a off-ball tight end. Like, plays a little bit more like a slot. But Travis Kelce can block better than a lot of Patriots people give him credit for. Travis Kelce is willing to stick his nose in there and make a block. But you look at Gronk, you look at the way that he had to be defended because he was such a physical player. Kelsey's a lot more speed, finesse, intelligence. Gronk was, I'm going to run straight through your face, and I'm going to take on two safeties, or a safety and a linebacker hanging over me. I'm going to just go up over you and make the catch with my 6'6", 260-pound body. And he had to be defended super physically. He lost a lot of juice in the tank because of that, because of the knee surgeries, because of the back surgeries and things like that, which was not really his fault. It was just how you had to play him, how you were allowed to play him, took more of a wear on his body. Where it gets tough, I understand both sides. I'm honestly 1A, 1B, sort of the way I am with Michael Jordan and LeBron. If you, either way you want to call it, that's cool with me. They both earned it. I do think Gronk at least matches Travis Kelce's peak, but I don't think the longevity is matched. Where I don't like the comparison to Brady is, by my estimation, Brady has the greatest career and best peak, but I understand the peak one is a more nuanced argument, and you could talk about Mahomes, you can talk about Rodgers, you can talk about Dan Marino. When you talk about these peak guys, I believe that Brady has both the peak and the career. When it comes to Gronk and Travis Kelce, I think Gronk has the peak, Travis Kelce has the career, but they're both phenomenal tight ends, the two best in my opinion. I love Gronk. I was lucky enough to talk to both of them in New Orleans. It was really cool getting to get up close and pick the brain for just a couple minutes of both those guys. But can't go wrong either way is what I'll say. But I'm Team Gronk, of course.
Oh man, Gronk on broadcast is something that I didn't really ask for.
Listen, you know what I asked him? The first thing I asked him was about Mahomes' spike against Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. I said Gronk, like, can you give him some Gronk spike pointers? And he went on a whole like minute-long tangent about when it's cold, you can't grip the football the way that you're supposed to. So you got to have big hands like me. Mahomes, he just lost the grip. Like
He
I'll
does
give
have,
him all.
Mahomes does have pretty
Yeah,
small hands for a quarterback. Actually, that was like one of the knocks on him
he
coming
does.
out.
I remember. But it was a very cool moment. It was hilarious, and you're right. Like seeing him on the broadcast and stuff, including the retirement story a few years back. Like it's gold.
Yeah. Well, Brady, it's been really good to talk to you. Like I said, I always want to prop up people I think who do good work, and I do think you do great
I
work.
appreciate it,
And I also think that it's good to hear perspective from other fan bases. And I think there's a very real situation that Drake May, Patrick Mahomes is coming in the playoffs. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk to you again soon in less friendly terms. Talking about the teams and all those type of things. We're going to have a show every single day of the week here on Arrowhead Addict. Tomorrow, we'll be breaking down the trade deadline with Sterling Holmes and Joshua Briscoe on Tuesday. So check that out. And we'll be talking all throughout the bye. Next week, I'm very excited, Christian, because we're going to be talking draft. We're going to have our top 25 prospects ready to go. I am diving into the all-22 after I finish grading this Chiefs game for FTN. I will be getting into Caddy's cut-ups and getting the Arrowhead Addict big board going for the draft. Excited to talk a little Ruben Bain and a little Caleb Downs with you. So it'll be good. So please join us for this. Please like and subscribe this video. Brady, thank you so much for joining us. Let us know real quick where we can find you and your work.
Yeah, so at Brady Penn 21, like you guys said on X, that's where I'm most active. And I've also got a TikTok where I break down a bunch of all 22 stuff called BP Film Room. Those are really my two biggest platforms you can reach me at. And I appreciate both you guys for having me on. It was a blast. And, looking forward to how the rest of the season goes. And if we do get that May Mahomes matchup, might have to have me on once again.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, here at Arrowhead Addict, go Chiefs.